What is going on, everybody? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today I saw Bleacher Report dropped a brand new mock draft, so because I have limited time, we are going to review it and continue it for an extra round. We'll be getting back to normal, my only style of content, really soon, but I like being able to give you guys quick reviews on what the big people in the industry are doing. So if you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. You guys know how to do YouTube, and let's get on to 8K, 9K, 10K. We just breached 7,500 literally a couple weeks ago, so it is great to see that we're already still awesomely growing. Let's get right into this because draft season is the best season. Panthers start off by going CJ Stroud. It's the casual number 1-2. I don't really think I need to talk about this too much. If you like Bryce Young more, which I do, you can put him at 1. I personally don't because Frank Reich never coached a starting quarterback under 6'2". I like to tend to lean on realism when it seems to be the right thing to do. Cardinals going Will Anderson Jr. I could click here. We'll try that. So Will Anderson Jr. is the next pick. I think that's very solid. Tyree Wilson is another option. Of course, I know, you got Anthony Richardson on your screen, but I think that Will Anderson's the best talent in the draft. I think he was misused at Alabama because they were using him like they should somebody who's 275, like Myles Murphy, using him as a two-gap defender, but I think he's going to be excellent. Number 4 with Anthony Richardson. I think it's great for Shane Steichen's system as long as Ballard doesn't become a selfish prick and say, I need my job, which, to be fair, I can't really blame him, but hopefully he does what's best for the franchise, and I think that is going after AR. Next, we got Seattle Seahawks going Jalen Carter. With teams dropping him supposedly off their draft board, it does make me severely concerned for a team that is trying to rewrite a reputation for taking these guys with bad personalities. And if there are teams that are genuine, especially the Raiders, that genuinely do not want him, there's a good chance that a team like the Seahawks are trying to build more of that reputation of good work ethic and working your ass off, might not be intrigued with him. The talent is there, but the best ability is availability. And I think that if you do not have what it takes to remain on the field, then teams are not going to want you, and it does lower your value. So number 6, the Lions go Myles Murphy. I still have Myles as my number 3 or number 2 edge rusher, so I agree with this in terms of the ranking. Obviously, there's no trades in this, so they could have traded back and maybe gotten Myles. I really do like Myles Murphy. I think he'd be a great addition to Detroit. I think that he should not be falling out of the top 10. I think this is an excellent spot for him too, because I think he can play on the outside or the inside. But of course, I don't really think they necessarily are desperate for really anything except maybe a solid Mike linebacker, which I think Jack Campbell would be excellent. If they were able to move back from 18, maybe acquire a next year first round pick. I'm just bullshitting ideas here. That would be awesome. But it's nice to see Myles get a little bit of respect. Obviously, Bleacher Report doesn't seem to be up to date based on the fact they have Myles Murphy this high, because a lot of people are dropping them on their mock drafts, and I'm adjusting to do that as well, because usually when one guy starts really slipping in everybody's mock drafts, it's because an insider is telling somebody of importance that the NFL is not looking at him very highly. Otherwise, I think it's a great pick. Raiders in going CG, I love it to death. Great pick. You need to go a defensive back. I'm glad it's not Will Levis. Next, we have the Falcons going Tyree Wilson, another excellent pick. I think Myles Murphy is a good spot for them as well. I think you could look at Christian Gonzalez if he's there. Devon Witherspoon, Dave Huxtable played or coached with his defensive coordinator last year, so there is that connection there. Next, we have Chicago Bears going Peter Skoronski. For me, I think that I'd rather go after someone who I know is going to be a pure offensive tackle. I'm not going to blame the Bears if they just want to get something right, and I think that Skoronski is going to be a star NFL offensive lineman for 10 to 15 years, just probably at a guard spot. But I think that with Tevin Jenkins, I said the same thing. He belongs at a guard role. So how many times are you going to be drafting these tackles really highly for them to kick into guard? Guard is a lower value position in terms of the contracts that they earn. So you're not really getting your best return on investment if you're paying pretty much a top 10 pick for a left tackle and putting him to guard. So for me, I'd rather go after a higher upside tackle. Paris Johnson's in the mix. I would trade back potentially. There's an idea where you could trade back with the Titans, get Jeffrey Simmons, and then get someone like Darnell Wright if you even trade back further, and maybe even pick up an extra first. Poles would be he would be, right below Jesus on the tier of Chicago Bears fans' priorities if he were able to do something like that. But not a bad pick. I just would prefer something of higher value at pick 9. Eagles going Lukas Van Ness. I'm not high on Lukas Van Ness. It's a good guy to develop, but to me, I thought he was a one-trick pony who never even started. And, like, I'm sorry, looking at him hit a couple of bags is not going to surprise me. He had a couple good reps here and there, and it was against Paris Johnson, who had anchor concerns. So, of course, a guy whose primary asset is his power is going to look good versus somebody whose main weakness is against power. I don't really understand why people aren't addressing that or even bringing it up, but, people are going to do what they want to do. I think Paris Johnson Jr. to the Titans is an excellent selection. He is, he has a lot of upside. He's someone I moved up my board. I didn't really believe in him. I thought of him as a second-round prospect until probably a couple weeks ago. I watched a couple more of his games, and, there were improvements. And I felt like he was deserving of being able to be moved up above someone like Broderick Jones, where I think Broderick Jones' worst tape is worse than Paris Johnson's. So I'm going to give the upside to a guy with 36-inch arms, and, he has better worst tape than some other offensive linemen. Quentin Johnston goes next. I just find it hard for D'Amico to come in and then take 2 offensive players, but there's not really anybody worth it on defense at this pick if you're not going to be going a corner to pair up with Stingley, but I wouldn't. I don't really think D'Amico needed to use like first-round quality corners in order to be successful there in San Fran, so I highly doubt that he would do the same here. So it is possible, but maybe they would trade back and maybe get Kalijah Cansey. We'll see about that. Jets going Broderick Jones. It's a very solid, very reliable pick. I think you could also kick into guard if need be, so you do have at least a role for him in the long run. Patriots going JPJ. He's my number 2 player in the class. I fell in love with him to death. Sauce was my number 1 guy last year, and I put my name on it. I feel like I'm going to put my name on JPJ as well. If he goes to the right system, I think the Patriots would be one of those. I think the Steelers would be another. You just have to go to the right mind, or you have to go to a spot where you're willing to deal with some slip-ups because his high-end play is incredible. I think he should be going top 5, top 10, but, who am I, right? I think that his talent is just unbelievable. He runs extremely well. He tested better than, honestly, I expected to. He has crazy long arms, and he's extremely aggressive. To me, he's going to be a superstar in the NFL if he goes to the right spot. Packers going Michael Mayer. I just think there's better tight end value in round number 2. To me, that's just better. And, at this spot, there's Brian Branch on the board. I think that's just the best pick that you can do. Jackson Smith and Jigba does fit their larger slot mold that they could be looking for. So for me, I think that's just a better pick. Next, we got Devon Witherspoon. I think this is an excellent pick for the Commanders. It's a pick of need, and it's a good system fit as well. Next, we have the Steelers going Nolan Smith. Now, I don't fully understand the need to go edge, but as a Steelers fan, if we're not bringing on Bud Dupree, I would love a rotation of Highsmith and Nolan Smith because I love Nolan Smith with a passion. I'll scroll down my board so you guys get to see a little bit more of it. To me, I have Nolan Smith at 12. I think this would be excellent value. Now, it's not the needs that we have. Like, I would rather go Deontay Banks in a perfect world because I love Deontay Banks, especially in the right system. But Nolan Smith is not going to make me mad at all. I'd give it a B+ pick because I really love Nolan Smith. And I love his work ethic. He'd be an amazing Steeler. I might even give it an A-, even though I don't believe that it is the best pick. I mean, as a Steelers fan, I would love to see Nolan Smith on my team. Next, we have the Lions going Darnell. I'm not a fan of this one personally. I'm not a fan of the tight end to the Lions. I don't really think that's the needle mover. You wouldn't have gotten rid of Hawkinson, if I'm going to be completely blunt, if you believe that tight end was that valuable. And I'm not saying that you won't draft a tight end. That's not what I'm saying at all. But this high, it's just, if you put that much of a premium on the position, you had a proven talent that you just had to pay the money for. And for me, if you're spending a first-round pick, that's more valuable than that contract plus a second. Like, to me, I think that would be, they telegraphed the fact that they did not want to put that type of value on a tight end. And I don't think Darnell Washington really adds that much to this offense. I think an ex-receiver would. Now, if you wanted to go Dalton Kincaid and say we are going to be putting him as like a Kyle Pitts role, as like a wide receiver partially, you have me listening. But I'm not really listening that much, and especially with Darnell Wright, not Darnell Washington. I am not a huge fan of it. Buccaneers let Will Levis slide to him. Obviously, I think if the Titans are sitting there, they'll nab him. Trying to trade up to 1 shows that they still are unhappy with their QB situation. But I think if it falls this way, excellent selection for Tampa Bay. John Michael Schmitz, I don't really see him being a first round talent. A lot of people are putting Tippmann, John Michael Schmitz, Steve Avila in the first. And for me, one, you look at the value of the average center, it's like below average for the value of an offensive player. It's actually below average for the across the board in terms of what they're getting paid on average, the top 10. Mike Renner just posted a tweet about it, so you guys can check that out. But I mean, if Tyler Linderbaum, I know his size was a concern, but if Tyler Linderbaum fell to 26, and to me he was a generational center, I don't understand what puts the value on these centers above him. I just don't get it. You can get pretty solid value in round 2. Even if you miss out on Schmitz, even if you miss out on Tippmann, there's still Whippler in there. You still could go Avila in there. Like, to me, I think there's just good enough value to pass on it. Alusaguna Luatimi, another guy where you can get good value at center. So it's a low value position with good enough depth. I don't see the value of it in the first round, but I think it's an amazing system fit for Seattle. I could totally see him going that way, just not in the first. Chargers going to Zay Flowers. I can't see them doing that over Jackson Smith and Jigba, but if they do, I don't really complain about it too much. I like Zay Flowers a lot. Baltimore Ravens going Brian Breezy. They kind of just have a loaded roster. I would say corner with Deontay Banks is the best one. Keep him in Maryland, but if we were going to go for second best pick, it's tough to pick for Baltimore, which is why I'm pretty happy when I do 2-round mocks. I don't have to do something for them in the second. They're just a loaded roster, and obviously with everything up with Lamar, it's interesting to see what they would do. I'd prefer Jackson Smith and Jigba, but Brian Breezy has incredible potential, great frame, and he does have elite block shedding ability. Him and Travis Jones would be a nasty 1-2 punch there for the next 3+ years. Next, we got the Vikings going JSN. It's a perfect pick, so I'm not really going to talk too much about that. Jaguars going Darnell Wright with the loss of Jawan Taylor. This is as good of a pick as you can ever pray for. To me, he's my tackle number 1 for the upside, but just a really high upside pick, and I think he could start out even better than what Jawan Taylor was, and he just got paid $20 a year. So you're getting $20 million plus a year at the 24th overall spot. To me, that's great value. Joe Tippmann, he's very athletic, so he's one of the guys who I could potentially see going in the first round. Solid frame, good athlete. I've moved him up my board exponentially because his Michigan State tape, his game versus Michigan State, that is atrocious. It is bad. He's getting thrown off, dudes. He looks like he might be UDFA. But the other games look great. Even against guys like Tyleik Williams against Ohio State, he's doing a great job versus those dudes who are arguably first-round talents. Don't know, maybe he just didn't eat his Wheaties in the morning versus that Michigan State game, but I moved him up to, I think, top 70 on my board, and that's a huge jump from pretty much UDFA. I do believe that Joe Tippmann in the right system will work, and I'm praying that the Michigan State is the outlier and not going to be the norm, because if it is, then I would never, ever dream of drafting him. Cowboys then going Bijan, logical if he's there. Jordan Addison to the Bills. I love it. You're getting a nice slot weapon and someone who's another deep threat. You can never have too many elite weapons. With the loss of Isaiah McKenzie, I think that's a great addition. Bengals then going DeJuan Jones, perfection. I love that too. Saints then going BJ Ojolari. I love keeping BJ Ojolari there in Louisiana. It's nice to see him staying. Obviously, you're moving from Baton Rouge to New Orleans, but keeping him down in that area is super cool. Obviously, Louisiana, I think he grew up in Louisiana as well. LSU has a dominance over Louisiana prospects, but, even if he's not, BJ is an incredible player. Actually, did BJ Ojolari go to Georgia like his brother? I have no idea. Doesn't matter. So I think it's great to look at edge rusher. I would look at defensive interior still. I think Kalijah is still on the board, so someone you can put in there. I know you brought on 2 interior defensive linemen in free agency, but we all know those guys aren't superstars. It's not like you're getting a Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, both guys who are legitimate former high-level starters. But again, I'm not going to complain. I would still give the pick a B+. Eagles, if they get Deontay Banks, is an A++. Amazing guy to develop for a year or two there behind your veterans. And then the Chiefs going Tucker Kraft. This was the one I did not like. Yeah, this is probably the one pick I really didn't like the most. I don't think Tucker Kraft has really done anything to deserve this first round type of hype. He's not a super elite athlete the way, like, if this ends up being Zach Kuntz, understandable, because that's just a freak athlete that you're going to mold over the next year or two behind Kelsey. But Tucker Kraft, he's never been that crazy to me. He was basically an on sale version of Luke Musgrave. And to see him go before Dalton Kincaid, I do understand the tight end selection. Just, I wonder if this is more for the clicks than anything. But let's get right into the continuation of the mock draft. The Steelers are here and Kalijah's here. Kind of hard to pass on him. I know that we went an edge rusher, so I want to quickly take a peek at the tackles still available. It's impossible to pass on Anton Harrison. It is. I know we need defensive interior help behind Larry Ogunjobi there, but to me, I would rather wait till next year when there's a plethora of dudes who have a ton of talent. And so I'm going to be going after Anton Harrison. He's a star. He's played right tackle. Now you can also play left tackle. You're putting the pressure on the starters right now, which competition always breeds more success. And if they can't live up to the expectations of Anton Harrison, then Anton will start, and then Anton will have somebody trying to fight for his job too. Constant competition is always a great thing, but Kalijah's here, and I am not going to let him continue to slip. I know that Dalton Kincaid wouldn't be a bad option, but, when you're looking at it, I would love to see D'Amico be able to, rewrite what happened there with the defensive interior that they drafted out of South Carolina years ago. And I'm tripping on his name, but that's okay. Kalijah Kancey is a good selection there. Excellent value. For the Cardinals, oh man, Brian Branch has fallen. Cardinals, I'm going to be going offensive line, or I mean, you could look at a corner here. The value, I don't think the value matches what, maybe a defensive interior or an offensive lineman does, and I think Osiris Torrance is a little bit too good on that value spectrum. I know center's more valuable for you guys because Hudson's probably going to be gone, but I don't really trust a rookie center anyway to be able to, command a defense or command that offensive line. So I'd rather get the guy with the highest upside and develop him for a year while Kyler is gone, and that's going to be Osiris Torrance. Pick number 35. I don't think Brian Branch would be a bad pick at all here. You could see Dalton Kincaid match up there with Jelani Woods. That'd be ridiculous. I don't think this team is necessarily bad at all. I want Josh Downs to replace Paris Campbell's role. I really do. I think he deserves it. He's going to be just a reliable option in the short. You could see them draft Justin Shorter later on to pair up with Anthony Richardson again, because I love me some Justin Shorter. Rams, they love taking safeties that might not be the most athletic and turning them into superstars. I think Brian Branch could be that type of dude. He's just incredible talent, and it's a new pick for the Rams because I always go Will McDonald. For the Seahawks, they went Jalen Carter. They've gone after a center with John Michael Schmitz. I think Will McDonald would be awesome. I think Felix Onyeudike-Uzomah would be awesome. I think a linebacker would be excellent for this team. You could have somebody there. Bobby's there only for a year. Jordan's coming off an injury. So I think Jack Campbell deserves it, and I'm going to give him that type of love. He is an excellent player. Would be my selection here for the Raiders, to be honest. But I'm not going to let Dalton Kincaid slip any further. He deserves to be taken early and often. And I think this would be a great spot for him to replace Darren Waller's role. He obviously was injured, so he couldn't do all the drills and all the testing that maybe he could have. But if he did, he'd be going probably in that top 25 range. Pick number 39 for the Panthers. I think Will McDonald just makes too much sense. Grabbing another edge rusher and adding it to your arsenal. Frankie Louvu might not be there after next year. He has 1 year left on his contract, I believe. So that sucks. But you also are kind of getting that outside linebacker as well across from Brian Burns to be a little bit more consistent. Obviously, Hassan Reddick had a lot of success there. I think Will McDonald could have that too for the future. Pick number 40. This is another reason why, as much as I love B.J. Ojulari, I think defensive interior is more important. If you did draft a higher level defensive interior like Kalijah, you can get Felix Onyeudike-Uzomah, potentially even B.J. Ojulari. But we're going to be happy with Mozzie Smith. He's a high developmental guy. Number 1 on Bruce Feldman's freaks list. And he's a good player. Has some bad reps in there, but I still think a very talented player nonetheless. Pick number 41 for the Titans went offensive line in the first place in the first round. Um, that's tough to pass on out of Awore. Again, there's a lot of really good edge rushers in this class. I'm not going to, shame anybody for passing on them for, you know, later rounds. But I think we could go Steve Avila here and just go offensive line. And actually, I'm going to do that. It's the best value. He also can move to center. I believe he's played there before. So good thing for Steve Avila. He's a big dude. He's been getting a lot of hype. So another guy who's probably going to be moving up my board. This, I am going to trade it for Aaron Rodgers. It makes sense. I just can't not do that. So Aaron Rodgers is going to be traded for this pick. Yes, they could trade him for future picks as well. Don't get on my ass about it. It's not going to affect this mock draft. So I'm assuming the Packers have this pick. And in the first round, where did they go? First round, they went Michael Mayer. So I'm actually going to go Felix on DK Uzama. I think it's a great fit. He's he's like got 255, 260. Very solid as a run defender as well. Very athletic. He is in my top 10. So I'm going to move down my board a little bit. The Jets, I don't know how he keeps making it here, but I'm sorry, Jets fans. I'm not going to stop taking Trenton Simpson for you. It's just too damn good a value. Okay, so now that these tornado alarms decided to shut the fuck up, we are back with the Patriots, and round number 1 went after JPJ. Do love that for sure. Now, I think that they should look at offensive line, but the offensive tackles just aren't good enough at this pick. And I think the best values at maybe edge rusher. Like, let's see who's here. I'm really intrigued. I could look at my own board, which you guys get to see still below my face. But looking at the guys available, it's kind of some slim pickings. I know you got Keon White in there. You do have Isaiah Foskey. Tooley's solid, but I highly doubt that that's going to be the best pick overall. If I were able to trade out this pick, I'd do it in a heartbeat, but I think the best value right now is going to be Drew Sanders. Getting an extra linebacker in there, I do really like Drew, so at least there's some silver lining there. Would have been an excellent pick here for Washington, who lost Cole Holcomb to the Steelers, but you guys ended up going after, I believe, a corner in round 1 with Devon Witherspoon, and you did. So excellent for you guys. Now, at this pick, I am going to be going offensive line, and the best guy available is Luke Whippler. I have him above. Where is he at? Where did I put Oluwatimi? Wow, I dropped him pretty far, 85 on my big board. So, just unfortunate. Pick number 48. So, we went tight end already, as well as an edge rusher. So, Diane Henley's an option. I just don't really think he's that good. I'm just not a huge fan. I think Jahmyr Gibbs would be a fun choice for you. But I think I'm actually going to go after a developmental corner route. I love Emmanuel Forbes, not the system I'd want him in. I think Tyreek Stevenson fits you guys. He's more of a bulky corner who's willing to hit very hard and definitely under the radar. He was a top 25 player for me starting out the year. I'm going to show him a little bit of love right now. Steelers on the clock have went after edge rusher, and now I think we went tackle. Nice. So, building the trenches. Same with a lot of these teams here that I like to draft for. I think Emmanuel Forbes is worth it. So I'm going to draft Emmanuel Forbes. I think that you can put him in the slot. Mike Hilton's vacancy is pretty heavily felt, and we've used slot corners like Cam Sutton on the boundary very successfully. So speaking of Cam Sutton, the freaking Lions nabbed him from us, but that's okay. Still love you, Lions fans. Pick number 50 for Tampa Bay. Now, I always like to go tight end here. I think that's a great choice. I think Cam Smith might be a good selection for this team at this spot. You can develop him and, use him well, but I actually might be intrigued on seeing Sam Laporta here. Offensive line would be awesome. Maybe I could have taken, Cody Malk there, but Sam Laporta, he's, in my opinion, going to be a star at the next level. At this pick, I am going to be drafting a nice tackle / guard prospect here in Cody Malk. I think the development is worth it. This draft has more tight ends in it than it does offensive linemen that are good. So I'm going to draft a dude who could potentially play tackle at the next level. Very athletic as well. Pick number 52, John Michael Schmidt selected. You also ended up drafting Jalen Carter. So defensive interior and offensive interior kind of addressed. And then we went Jack Campbell. So now I still want to potentially go after an edge rusher for this team, but more slim pickings at the moment for me compared to what I want to draft for y'all. You could end up drafting, it's actually not the best situation in the world because I don't think the guard spots are necessarily good enough. But looking at the tackles, I might want to kick a tackle to guard. No, nobody good enough. Very unfortunate because this is just not the spot that I would want to be personally. I think Tank Dell could be a really fun slot weapon for you and could be the successor in your system, but I might go Sidney Brown here. It's tough because you guys just brought on Julian Love. It's tough. It's a really interesting spot to be in. We might end up Keanu Benton doesn't make sense either. Obviously, you guys know I do this live. Otherwise, I'd be a freaking retard to go for this long without making a pick. But you know what? We're gonna go Derek Hall. We're gonna use his length and I think he could be a really good Seahawk for you, adding some extra help to that defensive line. The Bears, another spot that could be really benefited by defensive lineman, running back, etc. I'm going to go Keanu Benton. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Pick number 54, another team that Keanu Benton would be great on. The Chargers ended up going Zay Flowers earlier, so good for them. I think you could develop a corner like Garrett Williams. I think you can take Cam Smith, who could potentially be a safety as well. But I'm actually just going to go for the real deal. I'm going to go after Sidney Brown, who I have as a top 32 player on my board. Obviously, that's subject to change as more and more tape gets watched, but Sidney Brown is awesome. Pick number 55 for the Lions. I might actually go after a safety here as well, like a corner safety project in Cam Smith. I know a lot of people say he's a pure corner, and he could end up being that way, but to me, I'd rather want that versatility. Antonio Johnson put up his measly 8 fucking bench reps as a safety, which is atrocious and kind of an insult to most safeties. I mean, it just sucks. For me, we might end up going after insiders have said that Hendon Hooker is going to be the pick if he's there at 55. That's not my personal opinion what I would do, but I think I kind of want to follow where the rumors are going. It's again, I've heard this from other people who have very strong inside information. I think Hendon Hooker could be a very solid veteran very solid backup. But he does have that, ability to use Jameson Williams to his maximum because he did that with Jalen Hyatt. So we're going to go Hendon Hooker right here. Again, not my personal pick, but I do want to blend some realism in here, be able to show you guys a little bit of the news that I have been hearing that maybe you guys haven't heard yet. Pick number 56. So right tackle was acquired with Darnell Wright, which I think is a A++ move, and we're continuing this A++ draft with Cam Smith in the second round. No doubt about it. For the Giants, center in round 1, I dig it. I'm personally fine with that. I think Tank Dell would be great here. Just the value is too good to let him slide further. But looking at the corners, man, this is a good draft for corners. I do think a second corner would be nice, and I would love Wink Martindale to potentially mold Eli Ricks into something special. The Cowboys, I still probably want to go after a corner route as well. And Julius Brents could make a lot of sense. You could go Jalen Jones here as well. I just want to nab up a corner. I love Garrett Williams. I just don't think he'll go before someone like Julius Brents, who has, I think, 5 inches on him? Yeah, 5 inches. So incredible talent. And he's going to be a lockdown corner 3 for him for a short period of time before he becomes that corner 2 when Stephon leaves. Pick number 59 for the Bills. I mean, at this point, Tank Dell is just too good to pass on, right? But they went Jordan Addison earlier. That's crazy. That is crazy. And there's no tackles good enough to play on this team. I don't like Matt Bergeron. I moved him down my board significantly after rewatching him. You could go Olusegun here. I don't think I would. It's a tough spot. I mean, maybe Antonio Johnson. I think that might be the best choice. We'll go with the pick I used to send in the first round to the Bills. He's a little bit weaker, but at the same time, he's still a solid quality safety. Pick number 60 for the Bengals. Tight end is going to be the selection because Luke Musgrave's here. So, good selection right there for him. They end off with DeJuan Jones and Luke Musgrave, both guys who some people think should be in the running for their first round selection. Pick number 61 for the Bears went after now Peter Skoronski. Did we go Keanu Benton for him as well? So 2 interior linemen for him. Now I think the Bears should be looking maybe at a cornerback. They do need a true corner too. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs is just better. I really do. I don't think he slips this far in the real draft. It's just good players sometimes slip, and running backs really deep in this class. You could see him fall here. It's not like the last draft where you saw them get pushed up based on, I mean, to be fair, both those running backs ended up being very good selections in Kenny Walker as well as Breece Hall. But you still got to see an artificial inflation of their value based on the fact that the draft did not have very many good running backs. Luckily, Dameon Pierce blew up, but that's just because no one knew who he was. He had like 100 snaps or 100 reps before he got drafted. And, James Cook, solid player, but everybody knew kind of a reach there in the end of the second. But Jahmyr Gibbs is pretty much the better version of James Cook, and I would love to see the Bears get their hands on a super weapon. Pick number 62, and don't try to come at me with this Khalil Herbert BS. Like, I love Khalil Herbert. I am not going to put him above Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, that's just insane. But at number 62, I'd be open bringing Tank Dell on. I honestly would rather look at wide receiver here and Jalen Hyatt to be your longer-term wide receiver 3. You have Quez for one more year. To me, it makes sense to have that type of option for a cheap wide receiver. Wide receivers are very expensive as well, especially when they have speed. They are going to be valuable in some way, shape, or form, and his ability to produce is awesome. So I'm going to take him here for the Eagles. Corner, edge rusher, and wide receiver all secured for the future. And 63, I'm going to try to mitigate some of that pain that just happened there in the first round with tight end, which I don't think tight end's a bad selection, but Tucker Kraft to me was a very bad selection. Like, I think these two positions are great positions to target. I think, honestly, Jalen Hyatt would have been a great choice. I'm actually going to go Tank Dell. It's a weird one. I haven't gone Tank Dell, and I know that you guys are probably going to like it because I do think adding some extra receiver oomph is, pretty damn required in order to maintain a dynasty. And, I feel like the receiving talent has gone down and down on the Chiefs over the years, but luckily you have the greatest player in the NFL and arguably of all time. So using Tank Dell's ability to separate in the short is going to be great to open up windows for Patrick Mahomes, and I would love to see what he can do there. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you on the far side. Peace.